Daytona set the tone for the 2025 GTD Pro season. And with each subsequent round, the intensity of the competition has continued to escalate. So, of course, at Road America, this battling and bloodlust continued to be on full display. As the field of 48 IMSA competitors descend upon Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, let's remind ourselves of the championship standings. With 4 rounds remaining, the 3 Corvette leads just ahead of the 77 AO Racing Porsche with the 81 Ferrari, who won last time out in Canada, just behind, followed by the 48 BMW and 64 Mustang. And as the GTD Pro field took to the track for qualifying, the 81 Dragon Speed Ferrari continued their championship push by backing up their Most Sport win with a pole position. In the end, it was incredibly tight at the front of the field, with the 3 and 4 Corvettes ending up less than 0.02 of a second behind that 81 car, with the 48 back and forth. We have to go all the way back to 7th, though, to find Rexy, who struggled this qualifying session, along with the 64 Mustang. So, with race day upon us, and fans packed into this 4-mile-long road course, the Corvettes and Ferraris are sitting pretty at the front of the field. And as Mike Rockenfeller pulls away from the starting grid, he finds himself with an enormous task in front of him to keep the 64 Mustang in contention for the championship. And as the field makes their way 2 by 2 down the front stretch, the intensity is ratcheted up to 10 as they anticipate the drop of the green flag. The race gets underway as Rockenfeller hammers the throttle and blasts past the 77 Rexy Porsche. He tucks up behind the number 1 BMW as he tries to make his way past his teammate, the number 65 car. They pile into turn 1, 2 by 2, as the BMW kicks up dust through the apex. Verbish goes around the outside, but if we look at the exit, we see a yellow flag and then a wrecked LMP2 car whose race ended before it ever really began. Just out front, the number 81 Ferrari was able to hold on to the lead ahead of the 3 and 4 Corvettes, which are in 2nd and 3rd respectively. The early stages of this race were a bit stop-start, so we will jump ahead about half an hour with the field once again behind the safety car, because this is when the strategies will start to play out. So with the pits open for the GT competitors, most of the field pulls to the right-hand side and into pit lane, and we can see the 64 car of Rockenfeller follows Chris Mies in that 65. But the 4 Corvette opts to stay out on track, so they will assume the race lead ahead of the 81 and number 3 cars. Back aboard the 64, we can see that most of this GTD Pro field has elected to use this opportunity to quickly top up on fuel. Rockenfeller pulls to the right-hand side behind his teammate in that 65 car as he hits his marks, and the team jumps over the wall to top up on fuel. But with this being such a short pit stop, they will not be taking tires, so Rockenfeller is quickly released, but actually caught behind the 65 car as he loses a position to one of his GTD Pro competitors on the exit. As they exit the pit lane, we can see that the number 3 Corvette and 48 BMW have both jumped ahead of the 81 Dragon Speed Ferrari. So as Milner makes his way back to green and passes a slow LMP2 car, he leads this GTD Pro field just behind the LMP2 cars. But further back in 8th, we can see the 64 Mustang trying to close in on the 65 of Chris Mies as he powers down the front straight. Rockenfeller has his work cut out for him to make his way through this ultra-competitive field. Out front, Tommy Milner will be using the speed in his Corvette and the clean air out front to try to build a gap on the GTD Pro cars, which are battling just behind. Mies looks to make his way past Altuve in that 81 Ferrari as we can see the Mustang wiggling around through the apex as he struggles for grip on this restart, but Rockenfeller has a run on that 65 Mustang and makes his way past his teammate up into 7th position as he closes in on the 81 Ferrari just out front. Altuve has a run on the number 1 BMW on the exit though. The BMW goes left, the Ferrari looks to the right-hand side as they go side by side into the tight turn 5 left-hander. Altuve brakes late around the outside and makes his way past Harper in the 48 car, but runs wide through the apex. Harper tries to fight back, but Altuve is up into 5th position as he tries to now find his way past that 14 Lexus. Rockefeller now tucked up behind the 48 car as he tries to find his way past as well. They go through this really fast right-hander. It's just a slight lift through there. Use all of the apex curb and the curb on the exit as well as Harper tries to make his way past Altuve, who defends into this tight left-hander. The BMW gets a better run coming out of the corner, but there is just nowhere to go as they make their way through the carousel. There is just one line to this corner as Harper kicks up dirt through the apex. But we can jump back aboard the GTD leading number 57 Windward Mercedes to get a front seat view of this GTD Pro battle. And we can see that Lauren Heinrich, who is now aboard that number 77 AO Racing Rexy Porsche, is trying to find his way past the 65 Mustang. Through the kink, he is tucked up underneath the rear wing of that 65 car as they hammer down into Canada Corner. He looks to the right, then back to the left, then back to the right, but Mies is defending his position and not allowing this Porsche to pass. On the exit, Heinrich has to run once again, but Mies once again does not allow that 77 Porsche to pass, as now this GTD car has caught these GTD Pros through the exit of the fast left-hander and into the final corner. Just ahead, Rockefeller is continuing his pursuit of that number 48 BMW with his teammate in the 65, allowing him to build a slight gap on that AO Porsche. Back aboard the 57, and we can see that into Canada Corner, Heinrich has once again caught the 65 car and is weaving from side to side as he tries to find his way around. He brakes late around the outside into Canada Corner, but the Mustang shoves the 77 Porsche wide. They both go off the track. The 65 of Mies hangs onto the position as Russell Ward makes his way past the Porsche and closes in on that Mustang that now has damaged rear bodywork from contact with that 77 car. Clearly, there is no love lost between the 65 Mustang and 77 AO Racing Rexy Porsche. But with these cars battling behind, the number 4 Corvette comes in to make its first pit stop of the race. And critically, with less than 2 hours remaining, they can make it to the end on just one more stop. Milner pulls into his pit box and rips off his seatbelts as he quickly hops out of the car and hands over to his teammate, Nicky Katzberg. As Katzberg jumps aboard, the steering wheel is moved back into place as he buckles up his seatbelts and the team quickly installs a fresh set of tires. With Katzberg in the pit lane, this 57 Mercedes is still hammering out on track just behind the 2 Mustangs. And as they break into Canada Corner, look to the inside because there is Lauren Heinrich as he motors his way past this 57 car in hot pursuit of the 2 Mustangs. As the stint continues, unfortunately, we have another yellow flag, so another chance for strategies to play out. And with this GTD Pro field all bunched up, it is once again time for yellow flag pit stops. With several cars having pitted during that green flag sequence, Rockefeller now finds himself in 3rd place as he pulls to the right-hand side and into pit lane. The 65 Mustang and 77 Porsche follow just behind, with his 57 Windward Mercedes slamming on the brakes as they make their way into the pits. So as Rocky trundles down the pit lane, he pulls to the right-hand side and actually lifts off the throttle to allow his sister, number 65 car, to make its way past. Rocky, always the team player, didn't want to prevent that 65 car from having a clean entry into its pit box. So as Rocky's stint is over, he jumps out and allows Prio to hop aboard this number 64 car. With the stop complete, Prio launches out of his pit box with a massive burnout as he tries to put a little bit of temperature in those rear tires of the 64 car. And with the field once again ready to go back to racing, we can see that the 77 AO Racing Rexy Porsche jumped ahead of the 64 car in the pit lane. And just ahead of both of them is Katzberg in that number 4 Corvette, who is eagerly anticipating this green as he tries to make his way past that 1 BMW. Heinrich is tucked up just behind and eyeing the rear of that Corvette. Finally, the race goes green, and Heinrich looks around the outside, an unconventional move to that fast right-hander, but Katzberg covers off the move as Heinrich tries to make his way past, but falls in line behind the Corvette through the final corner. But his run onto this long straight is compromised. Prio has a run, but is not able to make his way past as he has to lift out of the throttle, and Heinrich stays just ahead. But out front, we can see that number 3 Corvette battling with the number 48 BMW as they hammer into turn 1. He looks around the outside of the 48 car, but they make contact through the apex, sending the 3 cars spinning. Katzberg makes his way past the scene of the crime as he closes in on that number 9 Lamborghini into turn 2. He looks around the outside of the number 1 BMW. He tucks back into the right-hand side, but clips the front of the 77 Porsche, which is hit from behind by the 64 Mustang as they all avoid the spinning number 4 Corvette. It has been a bad 2 corners for the Corvette crew, with both cars now stationary on the track. Katzberg is able to revive his number 4 Corvette as he refires the engine and gets the car moving once again, but it is unclear how much damage was sustained during that wreck. Miraculously as well, the championship leading number 3 Corvette is able to be pulled out of the tire barrier and continue the race without losing a lap on its competitors. And I know you guys like the small little details that I point out during the race, so here's a fun one. As we saw, a number of GTD Pro cars sustained damage during that wreck. So during the safety car period, they actually have a crew member run over to the wall that separates the pit lane from the racetrack to try to assess the damage that their car sustained during that accident. But back to the race, where the 4 and 3 Corvettes are back in 9th and 10th position. And although they are fortunate to still be in the race, it's unclear how much damage the cars sustained during those wrecks. So these first few green flag laps will be a great opportunity to see how much performance is left in those Corvettes. Just ahead, the 64 Mustang is still tucked up behind that 77 Rexy Porsche as Heinrich clobbers the apex curb, going around that number 9 Pfaff Lamborghini into the final corner. He tries to find his way past that Lexus as well. They go side by side through the exit, the 64 Mustang making his way past as well as the Lexus is actually trying to find its way into the pit lane. The Ferrari nearly collects that number 14 car as the 4 Corvette makes its way past the 81 Dragon Speed Ferrari and closes in on the cars ahead. Just out front, the 64 Mustang tucks in behind that Rexy Porsche with bodywork flapping as Heinrich uses every inch of road on the exit curb. Katzberg clearly still has some pace in this 4 Corvette as he looks for a way past Andrea Caldarelli's Lamborghini. Through turn 2, he sets up for a good run coming out of the corner and tucks in underneath the rear wing of that plaid machine. Just out front, Prio closes in on Lauren Heinrich with bodywork still flapping in that 77 AO Racing Porsche. Prio peeks up the inside, but Heinrich brakes incredibly late, and we can see flames being emitted from the rear of that Porsche as tire rub kicks up smoke into Prio's face. He tries to find a way past, but Heinrich defends as Katzberg sends a move up the inside into this tricky left hand of the road, falls away. There's so little grip through the apex, but he makes his way past up into 6th position. Things were looking down for Corvette, but this 4 car still has speed as he closes in on the 64 Mustang into the tight left-hander, and Prio falls in line behind the snake of GTD Pro cars as they make their way through the ultra-fast and ultra-long carousel. You're just trying to extract every ounce of speed you can through this long-duration right-hander as Katzberg closes in on the 64 Mustang, now looking to make his way up into 5th position. Katzberg tucks in behind the 64 car as Prio just slightly falls away from the number 77 AO Porsche of Heinrich, who is once again tucked up behind the 65 car and looks around the outside once again into Canada corner. But the Mustang pushes that Porsche wide on the exit, and Heinrich is not able to find his way past for a Vish in the 65 car. It is deja vu all over again in this GTD Pro battle. And through the final corner, they make their way onto the front straight, and we can see that number 48 BMW pulls to the right-hand side to serve a penalty for that contact with the number 3 Corvette in turn 1 on the previous restart. So as they hammer across the start-finish line, it is AO Racing Rexy Porsche in 3rd, 64 Mustang in 4th, and 4 Corvette in 5th. As Prio is now tucked up under the tail of Rexy as they make their way into the tight left-hander. Heinrich brakes as late as possible, and Prio is not able to find his way past, but gets a better run coming out of the corner as the 65 runs wide. Heinrich defends his position, though, and dissuades that 64 car from making a move into this tight left-hand turn 6. These 3 cars all nose to tail as they make their way through the fast right-hand turn 7, but the 4 Corvette closes in on the 3 of them as Prio defends to the inside. Katzberg stays wide around the outside, trying to get a better run coming out of the corner. He is all over the rear of this 64 Mustang, but there is just nowhere to go through this single file long right-hand carousel. On the exit, Prio is able to power away and build a slight gap on this number 4 car. Katzberg moves into Prio's mirrors heading into the kink as he closes in on that 64 car. through the exit. He gets a better run, and this Corvette has good top-end speed as that Mustang punches a hole through the air. Into Canada corner, Katzberg looks around the outside of the 64 car. He brakes late, gets a nose ahead as Prio leaves racing room on the exit, with Katzberg making his way past and building a gap through this fast left-hander as they head onto the final corner and back out onto the front straight. That Corvette, whose race seemed all but over with that crash on the restart, is now up in 4th position and hunting its way forward through this GTD Pro field. Into Canada corner, Heinrich is once again trying to find his way past around the outside of that 65 Mustang. He has a nose ahead, but that 65 Mustang is just able to hang on as the 77 car runs wide through the exit. But all the while, the 4 Corvette closing in on both of them, and now within touching distance of a podium position. Through the exit, Heinrich builds a slight gap, but Katzberg is firmly in Rexy's draft. And as this straight continues, we can see the top-end performance of this 4 Corvette, which clearly has not lost a step after that crash on the restart. Into turn 1, Heinrich is forced to defend to the middle of the road to prevent that Corvette from overtaking him for 3rd place. Heinrich runs slightly wide through the exit though, and Katzberg has the better run coming out of the corner. Heinrich once again defends into turn 2. Katzberg is once again able to use a wider line to get a better run coming out of the corner as he tucks in behind that 77 AO Racing Porsche. They hammer down this long straight into turn 5, and Katzberg is able to power his way past that 77 Porsche up into 3rd position, with the 64 Mustang of Prio still chasing both of them down. But with 56 minutes remaining in the 64 car in 4th place, they will be the first callers onto pit lane as he pulls to the right-hand side and nearly makes contact with an LMP2 car. This is such a tricky pit lane, and we saw the Pfaff Lamborghini end up in a massive wreck during practice. But with Prio's car still mostly intact, he makes his way into his pit box for the team to fill up the car one final time with fuel and add one final set of tires. Back out on track, the number 4 Corvette is now up in 2nd position because the number 1 BMW has also pitted from the lead. But as they hammer into turn 5, we can hear Katzberg lift out of the throttle because the safety car is once again out on track. This yellow could not have been more perfectly timed for the 64 Mustang and 1 BMW, who will cycle to the front of the field with nearly everyone else needing to make a yellow flag pit stop. So with Katzberg temporarily in 2nd position, he pulls into the pit lane just behind that 65 Mustang, with the 64 continuing on track behind that 1 BMW past the 4 and 65. Katzberg continues down the pit lane past that number 65 Mustang and pulls into his box, hitting his marks just perfectly as the crew hops over the wall to bolt on a set of fresh Michelin tires. With the field reshuffled, Katzberg is now back in 9th position, still behind that 65 Mustang of Verviche. Meanwhile, up ahead, the 64 car of Prio is actually in 3rd place because AO Racing has elected to keep Rexy out on track, despite the fact they still require more fuel. So clearly, that 77 AO Racing crew is praying that the end of this race was like the beginning, and there are a series of extended yellows that will allow them to make it to the end of the race without needing an additional pit stop. This might seem a little bit over-ambitious, but that's the exact strategy that allowed the 81 car to win last time out at Mosport. Back aboard Prio, we can see that Rexy has started to slightly pull away with that number 1 BMW chasing closely behind, and Prio just a bit further back as he hammers down the front straight, unleashing the full power of his V8 engine. Just behind, the Corvette of Katzberg starts to close in on that 65 Mustang that has proved incredibly challenging to pass. Into turn 1, Katzberg peeks up the inside with the Mustang defending his position as Katzberg now looks around the outside and tries to get a better run coming out of the corner. The Mustang, though, is just ahead and once again closes off the inside line, with Katzberg looking around the outside as he tries to set up for a better exit coming onto this backstretch. The Mustang runs wide, Katzberg has an overlap and uses the side draft to pull himself up alongside that 65 car. They are side by side, wheel to wheel, as they hammer into the tight turn 5 left-hander. The Mustang gets a nose ahead of the Corvette as they slam on the brakes through turn 5. Katzberg once again has the run coming out of the corner, but Vervish defends his position, closing off that inside line, with Katzberg left looking around the outside one more time on the 65 Mustang. The 65 car once again proving incredibly challenging to overtake around this Road America circuit. And as they wind their way into Canada Corner, Katzberg once again closes in on this 65 car. We can see that out front, Rexy, the 1 BMW, and 64 Mustang are starting to pull away from that number 3 Corvette, which has made a miraculous recovery from their turn 1 crash. But it is clear at this point that that 3 Corvette is struggling for pace and must have sustained some damage when it hit the tire barriers. So, although Katzberg is in 9th position as his Corvette stretches its legs down the front stretch, we can still see that P4 is just up ahead. And into turn 1, Katzberg closes in on the 65 car, who defends to the inside. He looks around the outside, gets a nose ahead in the braking zone, but that Mustang has the inside line, and it's so challenging to overtake through this fast right-hander. Katzberg goes wide, and the Mustang hangs on to the position one more time, with Katzberg once again having to fall in line behind that 65 car. And as he puts the power down on the exit, he must be scratching his head, trying to figure out how he can make his way past the 65 Mustang. And as they hammer once again into turn 5, the Mustang defends his position. Katzberg pops into the draft before moving back to the right-hand side. They make contact as Katzberg tries to use every inch of road on the entry and is shoved wide on the exit, with that Lamborghini also kicking up dirt as they power their way into turn 6, with that Mustang still on his inside. They go side by side once again, with the Corvette once again kicking up dirt on the exit, and Vervish hanging on to that 8th position. With the battles raging behind the 64 car, they are also raging out front as well, as Verhagen in the number 1 BMW looks to go past Rexy and claim the lead of this race with 30 minutes remaining. Lauren Heinrich defends his position on the inside, and we know how difficult it is to overtake into this tight left-hander. Verhagen falls in line behind that 77 Rexy Porsche, who hangs on to the lead despite still needing one more pit stop. Heinrich defends once again into turn 6, but you get the feeling that Verhagen knows he just needs to outlast this number 77 Porsche to claim the victory for BMW. Just behind, the 65 Mustang has now caught that number 14 Vassar-Sullivan Lexus, with Katzberg still in tow just behind. Through the fast right-hander, Katzberg closes in on this Mustang that kicks up dirt into our onboard camera. The operator tries to find us a clean spot to show the action out front, but this entire camera is covered in dirt. Through the fast carousel, that Mustang just pulls slightly ahead, and Katzberg tries to keep it tucked tight to the right-hand side to get a better run coming out of the corner and maybe try a move into Canada Corner. Through the fast kink, we hear a slight lift aboard this Corvette as he slams the throttle on the exit, and they use that runoff on the left-hand side. That is such a fast corner, and they are so committed through there as Katzberg closes in into the braking zone. He brakes incredibly late around the outside of that Mustang, but Vervish has the better line, and Katzberg is forced off of the road. He has the overlap into the fast left-hander. The Mustang tries to take the line, but Katzberg does not yield, and that Mustang is sent off of the track. Katzberg now up to 8th position and can finally start to chase down the rest of this GTD Pro field, having made his way past. And as he climbs the hill that leads to the start-finish line, he is firmly in the draft of the Vassar-Sullivan Lexus of Ben Barnicoat. Barnicoat defends to the inside, and the Corvette looks around the outside into turn 1, but we know how challenging it is to overtake there. Katzberg tries to make the move stick, but that Lexus has the line and hangs on to the position for the time being. Katzberg looks around the outside into turn 3, but Barnicoat once again has the better line through the apex. Katzberg gets the better launch out of the corner though, and they go side by side down this back straight into turn 5. Katzberg able to use the better top end speed of this Corvette to drag past that number 14 Lexus and up into 7th position. With the stint continuing, the GTP traffic will start to play a factor in this battling, and as they make their way through the fast right-hand kink, we can see dust being kicked up out front as the two GTD cars go side by side into Canada corner. The GTPs can't make their way past. This track is so incredibly tight, and Katzberg repasses the two Cadillac GTPs into the braking zone for Canada corner as he closes in on the two cars occupying the 5th and 6th positions. Katzberg loses time behind these two GTPs as he falls behind the number 48 BMW and 9 Lamborghini. And as they power on the front straight, he will once again close in on this 48 car. As they make their way into turn 1, he pokes his nose up the inside, and the BMW does not defend. He is up into P6, just behind that Lamborghini and 3 Corvette. But if we look to the right-hand side, there is the BMW that makes its way past the Corvette, shuffling him back to 7th position on the exit. But Katzberg gets the better run coming out of turn 3 and uses the side draft on the BMW to claw his way up alongside. As they go side by side down the backstretch, we can once again see the top-end speed of this Corvette that allows him to drag his way past that BMW, once again up to 6th position, as we can see the Lamborghini is caught behind an LMP2 through the kink. His run is compromised as he gets a huge amount of aero wash, and the 4 Corvette comes charging past up into 5th position, just behind his teammate in the 3 car, which is clearly struggling for pace. And with that 4 Corvette charging its way through the field up into 5th position, the 77 AO Racing Porsche pulls to the right-hand side to make its way into pit lane for their final pit stop. So as we hop aboard the 64 Mustang, Prio powers past Rexy up into 2nd position with that Porsche stuck at the pit lane speed limit. Back aboard the 4 Corvette, and Katzberg is now up to 4th position, still just behind his teammate in 3rd. But I want you to listen as they make their way into turn 5. He actually feathers the throttle, and I'm not sure why, but as he slams on the brake pedal, look to the left-hand side because he is shoved wide by the number 9 Pfaff Lamborghini and 48 BMW as well. Katzberg hammers the rear of that number 9 car into the tight left-hander, but the 81 Ferrari also slides past. Katzberg tries to fight back through the exit, but is shoved wide by that Lamborghini as he falls back to 7th position, with the GTD leaders now making their way past. He tries to regain his composure through turn 8, but we can see that there is a snap through the apex. All of that contact has clearly broken this Corvette, and Katzberg's incredible run back through the field, unfortunately, is cut short. So, with just under 10 minutes remaining in the race, Katzberg pulls his Corvette off of the racetrack and onto the grass. With Katzberg's day done, we can see that there is now 0 minutes left on the clock, and Prio climbs the hill one final time to take the checkered flag in 2nd place, just behind that number 1 Paul Miller BMW of Neil Verhagen. It was a great day for the 64 crew that was able to keep their nose clean and out of the carnage in the GTD Pro category. And it was also a great day for the 81 Dragon Speed Ferrari that was able to make its way into 3rd position past that 3 Corvette. So the championship now stands with the Corvette still leading, but the 81 Ferrari moving itself up into 2nd position, with Rexy falling to 3rd and the 64 Mustang back and 4th. Anyways, if you guys made it this far, thank you so much for watching and so much for supporting. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys. And as always, I want to give a special shout out to my channel members. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support. I really appreciate it. I love you guys. What an incredible season this has been in GTD Pro, and I cannot wait to see the final 3 rounds. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.